Every thought that passes through the mind is far more powerful than it appears. It is not a fleeting spark or a meaningless whisper, but rather a seed that falls into the invisible soil of life. Each seed carries within it the full pattern of what it shall become. When a gardener plants a seed of wheat, he never expects to reap roses, nor does he expect to reap thorns from planting grapes. The law is exacting like produces like. In the same way, the thoughts you continually entertain carry the nature of what you will later encounter in your world. Fear cannot yield peace, and anger cannot yield love. Every thought attracts its own kind and grows after its own pattern. This is why the mind must be tended with the same care as a garden, because no one wishes for weeds. Yet weeds will spring up if the soil is neglected. What makes this truth so astonishing is the quiet power of repetition. A single thought may flutter past like a bird, but a thought repeated, spoken, and believed begins to take root. It sinks deep into the subconscious mind, which is like fertile ground that does not reason or question. It simply accepts what is planted and sets about to bring it forth into form. If a person repeatedly thinks of lack, the subconscious faithfully bears fruit in experiences of lack. If one dwells on failure, doors of opportunity seem to close, not because fate is against them, but because their inner vision has already drawn failure into the outer picture. Yet the same law that works against us, when misused, will work unfailingly for us, when guided with wisdom. Repeatedly holding thoughts of abundance, health, and joy creates a magnetism that draws these very conditions toward us, just as a seed draws water and light to grow into its destined form. One cannot escape the harvest of their own thinking. It is a law as unchangeable as the pull of gravity. Many go through life blaming circumstances, other people, or even destiny for their hardships, forgetting that the very pattern of those experiences was first etched within their own minds. Life mirrors back to us what we continually dwell upon. This is why some find themselves moving from one difficulty to another, never realizing they are watering the same seeds of worry, fear, or resentment day after day. The outer world only reflects the inner garden, and so the wise soul learns to watch their thoughts carefully, to uproot the weeds of doubt before they grow, and to plant consciously the seeds of faith, courage, and expectancy of good. Imagine the mind as a field at dawn. Each thought is a seed scattered upon the soil. If you rise each day and scatter seeds of gratitude, strength, and success, the field will one day blossom into a harvest of blessings. If you scatter seeds of bitterness, anger, or defeat, then when the harvest time comes, you must reap the fruit of those very seeds. This is why it is enough to think a noble thought once. It must be repeated, nurtured, and affirmed until it becomes part of your very being. The subconscious mind must be impressed again and again, just as a sculptor chisels away until the figure appears. Every repeated thought is a chisel stroke upon the stone of destiny. Slowly but surely, the form emerges. Therefore, the thoughts we hold are not idle visitors. They are living seeds, planting the very pattern of our days to come. Whether we like it or not, they are shaping our future with every silent repetition. To think nobly, to choose wisely, to repeat faithfully the truths of abundance and harmony, is to sow a destiny of light. To neglect this truth is to let the weeds of fear and lack grow unhindered, until they choke out the flowers of joy. The choice is always ours, for life gives back to us, without fail, the harvest of the seeds we have sown in thought.
What you think once may pass like a shadow across the mind, but what you think repeatedly becomes etched into the very fabric of your being. The mind does not forget what is given to it again and again. It absorbs it, treasures it, and makes it part of its unseen library. Repetition engraves, and what is engraved in consciousness becomes a pattern that life itself must follow. When a phrase or belief is spoken often enough, the subconscious accepts it without argument and sets in motion the chain of events that will bring it forth. It does not weigh whether the thought is for good or ill, whether it leads to joy or despair. It only knows to carry out what is given. The mind, through repetition, carves the mold, and the substance of life obediently fills that mold. Consider how a river, flowing over the same rocks for centuries, wears away the stone and changes the landscape. One drop of water does not shape the rock, but the repeated flow, steady and relentless, creates valleys, canyons, and new paths for the water to follow. So it is with the thoughts that are repeated day after day. One fearful thought may pass away quickly, but 1,000 fearful thoughts, rehearsed in the quiet of the mind, cut deep channels through which more fear will naturally flow. On the other hand, the constant repetition of truth, the daily affirming of life, abundance, and courage, reshapes the inner landscape until new channels are formed for the blessings of life to stream through. People often underestimate the power of repetition, thinking that a few affirmations or positive thoughts will change their lives instantly. But repetition is like the beating of a drum. It must continue, steady and sure, until its rhythm becomes part of the heart itself. To think once of success is good, but to think repeatedly of success, to dwell upon it, to affirm it silently and aloud, is to impress it so deeply upon the subconscious that life cannot help but bring it to pass. It becomes a decree, not just a fleeting wish. The law responds to what is firmly planted, not to what is lightly scattered. Many unknowingly repeat thoughts of defeat and wonder why life gives them the same result. They rehearse every past mistake, go over every imagined failure, and speak aloud their doubts until their own words bind them. This is repetition in its destructive form, and it proves the law just as surely as repetition in truth proves it. Life cannot withhold the harvest of what is repeatedly sown. When worry becomes the constant thought, worry becomes the constant experience. But when faith is spoken again and again, when courage is repeated even in the face of fear, then faith and courage must appear in form, because the subconscious has been given its command. Repetition is the doorway to belief. No one begins by fully believing a new truth, but by repeating it faithfully, the mind grows accustomed to it, accepts it, and finally acts upon it as though it were always known. This is why noble thoughts must be spoken not once, but daily, hourly, until they sink into the heart and live there. To say each morning, "I walk in abundance," may feel strange at first, but through repetition it becomes natural, and what is natural to the mind becomes inevitable in life. Thus, repetition is not idle practice, but the very law of creation. Every thought repeated is a brick placed in the unseen building of destiny. Each phrase affirmed is another stone laid in the path ahead. You cannot escape the structure you are building, for it is being fashioned moment by moment with the repetition of your thoughts. Whether it is a palace of joy or a prison of fear depends only on what you have chosen to repeat. Every word spoken and every thought entertained carries a vibration that goes forth into the unseen and returns multiplied. They are not empty, nor do they vanish into nothingness. They are creative forces, living currents that shape and mold substance into form. When a person speaks words of love, courage, or faith, those words are like arrows of light that cut through darkness and prepare the way for good. When one repeats words of fear, anger, or complaint, those words create chains that bind the speaker to the very conditions they dread. Nothing is without consequence, for even the idle words and casual thoughts are seeds sown into the fertile ground of life. The power of words is often overlooked because they seem so small, so fleeting. Yet entire worlds have been lifted or destroyed by words. A kind word can heal the wounded spirit, and a harsh word can break it. A word of encouragement can open the door to courage in another's heart, while a word of doubt can close it just as quickly. If words can do so much in the life of another, how much more can they do when spoken into the quiet chambers of one's own soul? The self listens always, the inner ear is never closed. Every repeated phrase becomes a command to the subconscious, and the subconscious never fails to obey. It is for this reason that one must be watchful of not only what is said aloud, but what is thought in silence. For thoughts are words unspoken, carrying the same creative power, only awaiting the voice to bring them into fuller expression. To dwell on resentment silently is to send forth a vibration that attracts discord, even without a word spoken. To dwell in secret on gratitude is to release waves of harmony that bring blessings unlooked for. The invisible is as potent as the visible, and the law makes no distinction between what is said loudly and what is whispered within the heart. Life, then, is a perfect reflection of the words and thoughts that dominate the mind. A man or woman who continually declares lack cannot expect abundance to flow, for their words have already built barriers. The one who repeats, "I never have enough," has written a decree that life fulfills without fail, but when one boldly affirms, "The supply of life is endless and it flows to me freely," those words begin to break down the walls and call forth opportunities that seemed hidden before. The words we choose become the script from which our lives are acted out, and the stage of life never refuses to play its part according to the lines we have written. The creative force of words is strengthened by the feeling with which they are spoken. A casual statement has little weight, but a word charged with faith or fear carries immense power. If you speak of failure with dread and conviction, you plant the seed deeply. If you speak of success with joy and certainty, you set in motion forces that must bring success. The universe responds not only to the word, but to the spirit in which it is uttered. Therefore, the wise soul learns to speak with deliberate intention, to clothe words with faith and expectancy, and to silence the tongue when negativity seeks expression. Every word is a building block, every thought a tool in the construction of destiny. To use them carelessly is to build a house without a plan, and one may find it unstable and full of cracks, but to use them consciously, with faith and purpose, is to build upon a foundation that cannot be shaken. In the end, life cannot withhold from us the manifestation of the words we have continually spoken and the thoughts we have faithfully entertained. For words and thoughts are not idle things. They are living forces, shaping our path step by step, until we walk in the very world we have spoken into being. Fear and faith are like two opposing magnets, each pulling life toward its own image. Fear, continually rehearsed in thought and speech, draws obstacles as surely as a storm draws clouds across the sky. It imagines loss, failure, and sickness, and by imagining them with such devotion, it calls them forth into form. Fear paints pictures upon the canvas of the mind, and the subconscious, being faithful to what it is given, projects those pictures outward until they become the scenery of life. Many people suffer not because life has decreed suffering, but because they have rehearsed fear until it became their silent prayer. They wake expecting difficulty, speak of misfortune, and wonder why their path is filled with stumbling blocks. Yet the law is exact, and it answers always to the strongest vibration held within. Faith, on the other hand, is the radiant force that attracts miracles. To think faith is to dwell upon harmony, success, healing, and supply. To repeat affirmations of good is to open the door to unseen forces that work ceaselessly for our benefit. Faith imagines the best, holds fast to the promise of good, and by its steady repetition calls into form the very blessings it expects. It is a magnet for opportunities, for healing, for unexpected gifts. Faith is not wishful thinking, but a law of creation. It is substance unseen, already preparing the way before it is visible. A heart filled with faith draws to itself the right people, the right ideas, and the right conditions, and all things begin to fall into place as though guided by invisible hands. The difference between fear and faith is not in the law itself, but in the choice of the seed planted. The soil does not reject the thorn, it grows it faithfully. The soil does not reject the rose, it nurtures it with the same devotion. Life itself is the soil, and whether we sow fear or faith, it brings forth the harvest. That is why the careless repetition of fearful thoughts is so dangerous, for it is planting weeds that will one day choke out the flowers. But to choose faith, to affirm life, to repeat daily words of strength, is to sow roses that will bloom and perfume the path ahead. Fear contracts, shutting doors that might otherwise open. It blinds the eyes to opportunities that are present but unseen, because it has trained the mind to look only for danger. Faith expands, opening doors that seemed locked, revealing pathways where walls appeared. Faith lifts the eyes beyond limitation and holds the imagination upon the picture of success until the way is made clear. Fear is a chain, binding one to the same old conditions. Faith is a key, unlocking the doors of new possibility. Both are powers of the mind, and each one proves the law unfailingly. To live in fear is to build a prison, brick by brick, with one's own thoughts. To live in faith is to build a temple, stone by stone, where light forever shines. The choice is given daily in every repeated thought and spoken word. When fear rises, it can be dismissed with the affirmation of faith. When doubt seeks to take root, it can be replaced with the steady declaration of good. By such repetition, the subconscious is trained, the vibration is lifted, and the harvest is transformed. Thus, fear and faith are not abstract ideas but living magnets, drawing conditions according to their kind. The wise soul learns to turn away from fear and to fix the mind steadfastly upon faith. For faith is the law of abundance, the pathway to healing, and the open door to miracles. Whatever is continually held in faith must manifest, and when faith is the chosen seed, life blossoms into harmony, joy, and fulfillment beyond measure. The mind is a vast workshop, and every thought is a blueprint drawn within it. Each day, men and women step into this workshop and, often without realizing it, design the structures of their future. Some sketch plans of abundance, health, and happiness, while others unconsciously draft blueprints of lack, illness, and struggle. Whatever designs are repeated most often are handed over to the unseen builders of life, who set to work tirelessly in bringing those patterns into form. Life itself is the great construction site, and no plan remains idle once it has been given to the subconscious. It does not judge the worth of the design, but builds faithfully according to the drawings presented to it. When someone dwells on failure, disappointment, or betrayal, they are laying out the blueprint for similar experiences ahead. They may not mean to, but by rehearsing these images in the mind, they engrave them into the plan. Soon life must follow the design, and events arise that match the lines already drawn. On the other hand, when the mind is filled with images of victory, healing, and peace, those blueprints are submitted to the same invisible builders, and circumstances are arranged that allow those conditions to appear. The law makes no distinction between small and great designs, it only follows the pattern repeatedly impressed upon it. This is why imagination is such a powerful tool. The picture held in imagination is not idle dreaming, but the draft of a future reality. To picture oneself successful, healthy, or joyous is to hand the subconscious a drawing of what must be built. The clearer the image, the stronger the plan. And when this image is repeated again and again, with words of affirmation and feelings of belief, the plan becomes unshakable. The subconscious, like a skilled builder, gathers the necessary materials, arranges the circumstances, and calls forth the people required to complete the design. Life begins to mold itself to the blueprint, often in ways beyond human calculation. The danger lies in allowing the mind to become a workshop for chaotic or destructive blueprints. Many people allow fear, anger, or bitterness to draft their plans. They think of misfortune, picture failure, and then wonder why life has shaped itself into such forms. But the builder does not question the architect. If the architect hands over a plan of discord, discord is what is built. If the architect hands over harmony, harmony is what is constructed. Each person is the architect of their own destiny, and the repeated thoughts and visions they hold are the only instructions life receives. To use the mind wisely is to sit daily at the drafting table and consciously sketch the designs of good. One may imagine doors opening, opportunities flowing, health radiating, love surrounding, and success unfolding. Each time these images are repeated, the lines of the blueprint grow stronger. Every affirmation spoken is like an instruction written in bold, telling the subconscious exactly what to build. With patience and faith, the invisible builders complete their work, and one day the plan that was once only a vision in the mind stands as reality in the outer world. Thus, the mind is not a place for idle drifting, but a sacred workshop where destinies are designed. Each thought is a stroke of the pen, each vision a sketch, and each affirmation a command. The designs drawn most often become the life most surely lived. To fill the workshop with images of light, truth, and abundance is to ensure that the future will reflect them. Every person holds the pen, every person chooses the blueprint, and life builds faithfully according to the plans set before it. You are never a victim of blind chance, though the world may sometimes appear chaotic and unfair. Beneath the shifting surface of circumstances, an exact law is at work, responding faithfully to the thoughts and words you have sown. Each person is the architect of their own fortune, continually drawing the lines and shaping the plans through repeated mental images and inner convictions. Destiny is not a force that descends without reason. It is the visible expression of the invisible designs we have long entertained. To look at life and see only accidents is to overlook the workshop of the mind where every detail of experience was first fashioned. When a person begins to see themselves as the architect rather than the victim, power returns to them. They realize that they have been holding the pen all along, even while believing themselves helpless. Every thought of failure has drawn a line upon the blueprint, and every complaint has carved a mark into the plan. Likewise, every affirmation of abundance has laid a foundation stone, and every vision of joy has lifted a wall of light. The building may not rise in a single day, but brick by brick, stone by stone, the structure of destiny takes shape exactly as designed. No builder questions the plan, and life itself does not resist the orders given by the mind. The house may be built upon sand when thoughts are undisciplined, fearful, and doubting. Such a house cannot endure, for storms come and winds blow, and the weak foundation gives way. This is the life built on idle thinking, where chance seems to rule because no true design has been made, but the house built upon the rock of truth, where thoughts are steady, noble, and repeated with faith, stands firm no matter what storms may rage. This is the destiny of the one who recognizes themselves as the architect, who draws their designs carefully and consistently, and who builds with courage rather than fear. To choose wisely in thought is to lay each stone with purpose. To dwell daily upon abundance is to build strong walls that protect against the illusion of lack. To affirm health is to raise beams of strength that no weakness can shake. To picture harmony in relationships is to furnish the inner chambers with peace. Every choice of thought is a choice of material, and the building of destiny reflects the quality of what has been chosen. The careless architect may allow rot and cracks into the structure, but the wise architect selects only the finest, building with truth, faith, and love. No one can escape the building of their own fortune. To refuse to design is still to design, for drifting thoughts draft plans of their own, and life obediently builds them. This is why many live in houses of discord and wonder who placed them there. But the moment one awakens to their true position as the architect, the power of choice is restored. At once they may begin new designs, lay new foundations, and watch as life reshapes itself according to the new plan. It may take time for the old house to fall away, but the new structure rises even as the old crumbles, and in due season, the life envisioned replaces the life once endured. Thus, each person carries within themselves the authority to build their own destiny. By repeated thoughts, by faithful affirmations, by steadfast visions, the design is set and life never fails to follow. To live as a conscious architect is to step out of victimhood and into mastery, to build not upon fear but upon truth, not upon doubt but upon faith. The walls you raise today will be the house you live in tomorrow, and the fortune you experience will be none other than the structure you yourself have drawn.